Hi, it's me, Vicky Marie, and I'm here today to talk to you about another Nicola that went missing, but unfortunately has never been found up to now. So unfortunately her family still do not have the resolution of her case. Now, the reason I'm here to talk to you about Nicola Ray is there is a connection between both the Nicolas, Nicola Ray and the case that we're also intrigued with at the moment of Nicola Bully. And that connection is that Nicola Ray's fiancé at the time has always been suspected of doing something to Nicola. He's been arrested twice. His home has been, garden, etc., has been searched. But unfortunately, nothing that's enough to actually bring a conviction has been found against Nicola Ray's fiancé at the time. And his name is Timothy Barnes, or Tim Barnes. And the connection is, he is Paul Ansell's cousin. So, is what do we make of that? What do we make of that? Can we make anything of that? Obviously, Paul's not responsible for something that Timothy Barnes may or may not have done because he's not been charged. He's been held twice, arrested twice, but he's been released. His bail has been cancelled. So technically, there is no case to answer. So I'm just going to go back. I'm going to take you back 23 years to when Nicola, the other Nicola, if you like, Nicola Ray was planning her wedding with Timothy, or Tim, I suppose, Tim Barnes. And I don't know, I don't know about the relationship itself, whether things came out, if there was any domestic violence in that relationship. I just don't know. I only know what I've been able to find currently, on the internet, the information that I've been able to find from now. So Nicola was 30 years old, from Basildon in Essex. And she had two children. Well, she still has two children. Her children, Jodie and Stevie, were only 11 and 8 years old at the time. And she disappeared without trace in the early hours of May the 2nd, 2000, in the year 2000. So we've literally just passed the anniversary, the 23 years that woman has been missing without trace, and her family, her children, have no resolution. The case is still open. The police have kept the case open, so it's not closed. It's not a closed case. Now, when it happened, Nicola, it seems strange to be saying Nicola again, the two of them being called Nicola. So Nicola, that night or the night previously, she'd been drinking at the Moon on the Square pub. She then went back to her friends in Devlin's in Felmours. She left her friend's house in the early hours of the morning, and she was never seen again, as far as we know. Her friend was Loretta Kenny, 43-year-old Loretta Kenny, and she says this about the disappearance of Nicola. So she says, I have prayed that every knock on my door and every telephone call I have received since then is Nicola calling to say she's all right. But as the months have passed, my hope has faded of ever seeing her again. It is really awful to think she might be lying dead somewhere. She added, she loved her kids and it would take something serious for her not to contact them. The person who was reporting that what Loretta said thinks that there is something quite dark in this case. We'll see. In April 2010, so this was, when was this? This was 2000. So he wasn't arrested. Oh no, he was arrested in February 2001. So she disappeared in May in 2000, and Tim, I nearly said Paul then, Timothy or Tim was arrested in February 2001. He was given 7 months, he was kept for 7 months on bail, but then he was released and his bail was cancelled. Now, another sort of strange thing that's happened, that on April the 13th this year, so not long after Nicola Bully had been found, Mr. Barnes was rearrested and his home was searched. But again, nothing was found. When Nicola first went missing, when Nicola Ray first went missing, there were some clothes missing from her home, but there was absolutely no reason to suspect that she'd done anything to herself, gone off with anybody else. There was nothing to suggest that. So basically, I have to admit that is all I know really at the moment. This is another woman disappeared without a trace. So she's last seen in the early hours of the morning, leaving her friend's house after a night out. She's engaged to be married to Tim, and then she disappeared, just disappeared. There has been, on April the 13th this year, when Mr. Barnes was rearrested, there was, all the garden was scanned, the garage, it was dug up, but nothing was found. Nothing was found. So if he did do it, if he didn't do it, it's very sad for him to be under all this suspicion, isn't it? But I think for the police to suspect him, there has to be a reason. Yeah, when somebody disappears, obviously their partner is the first suspect, and I'm sure the police, like Paul said himself, didn't he, that he knew he would be the first suspect. That is more or less procedure, isn't it? But for them to continue to believe, unfortunately, I do think this happens in so many cases. The police cannot compromise a criminal trial, so they can't just arrest just because maybe they know with their gut feeling inside, or even they may have some evidence, but it may be circumstantial evidence or evidence they're not allowed to show in court. You just don't know, because the police keep all that to themselves until an actual court case happens. surely for them to keep suspecting and to go back and dig up the garden, etc., they must have some reason to do that. They're not just doing that for the fun of it. You know, if they really thought that Nicola had gone off with somebody else or had done something to herself or whatever, they wouldn't keep focusing their attention on Tim. So there must be a reason for it. You know, they probably are more or less, you know, certain they did it, but knowing somebody's done something and proving that they've done it is a whole nother thing, isn't it? So yeah, Nicola Ray, 30, so she would have been 53 now. Her children now, if they were 11 and 8 at the time, so Jodie will be in her 30s and Stevie will be also just in their 30s. What do they make of it? How is that to live with that, knowing that your mum disappeared, you don't know what happened to her, and the likelihood is that your dad killed them? Well, I don't know if he was their dad. I'll look into that, whether he was their biological father or not, I don't know, but very difficult, and so difficult for a family to live with. You know, as we say over and over again, not knowing what has happened to someone is worse than knowing that something, you know, that actually getting the body and finding out what happened to them, even if it's the worst news. Not knowing 23 years, not knowing if your daughter, your mom, your sister, your friend is going to just turn up again, or worrying what's happening to them. You know, are they being hurt? Are they being held? Are they suffering? All those things is worse, really, than knowing that at least they are at peace. At least, you know, you've been able to bring them home, bury them. Anyway, so that's really all I've got to say about this story. But if you have any information, you know, obviously quite a lot of people watching these videos now. You know, I know I'm not a massive channel with a massive, but there's quite a lot of people. If you know anything, if you're from that area and there's something that you know that maybe you haven't said to the police, maybe you didn't think it was important. You know, this is, I think, nowadays, everything is so important, isn't it? And quite often it is just a comment, like with Helen Bailey, who was buried in the cesspit in her home with a car parked on top of it. The police didn't even know there was a cesspit there. And if the neighbour would not have said to the police, "Oh, did you check the cesspit? You know there's a cesspit there, don't you?" Helen probably would never ever have been found, and that horrible man that murdered her, he would not have been held to account. And then it turned out, of course, Ian Stewart, he had murdered his first wife as well. So all those crimes, those two crimes, and all, you know, Ian Stewart would still be a free man. He might have even done it to somebody else, because he was basically a freeloader that was just, you know, killing his wives for insurance or for financial gain, really. I'll put the link in the comments for that video. If you haven't seen that video, I know we're all obsessed with the Nicola Bullock case, but there are other cases that deserve our attention, in the sense that these victims, they need to be remembered. They need to be remembered. And Helen Bailey is one of those that I think always needs to be remembered, for the lessons that we can learn from that case. So, do you think there's any significance that Tim is Paul's cousin? He's a free man, he's walking around. Has he got this secret weighing him down? Did he involve other people in helping him? If he did do something to Nicola, then Nicola Ray, did he involve other people in helping him dispose of the body? It's not easy to dispose of a body in one way, but in another way it is. If you've got the time, you know, and if you've got friends who will help, or family that will help. I mean, I don't know, because we don't know yet. what happened to Nicola. I imagine the police have put an awful lot of pressure on Timothy, on Tim, but he didn't crack. Mitchell Quay, again another case that I've covered, he did crack in the end when he was arrested for murder of his wife, even though there was no evidence. He did crack. That's one thing I find in his defence. At least he did confess, and he did take the police to find most of his wife's, the lovely Lindsay's body. They didn't find all of it, but at least he did do that. So her parents got some comfort, if you like, for bringing Lindsay back and knowing what had happened to Lindsay. They always knew it in their head, but they didn't find out until he actually took them to find the body. But he, you know, that was nearly 2 years. He was really just carrying on with his life, and, you know, caught in the media, appearing on TV, inviting TV crews to his home, you know, loving it, reveling in the attention, because again, no evidence. Somebody disappears and there's no evidence. It's very difficult to bring them to trial. And I should, this case, maybe Nicola Ray, she will get justice in the end. Maybe something will break in the case, and finally Timothy, if he is guilty. If he's not guilty, well, I'm sorry, but, you know, for thinking that he is, but it seems to me, you know, I don't think the police, it's so hard to prosecute someone. I think we don't realise how difficult it is to prosecute someone. You know, we think, oh, well, they did it, and that's it. But to actually get a case, if you manage to get a murder case to court, or a rape case, these type of sensitive cases where there's no witness, you know, there's no witness to a murder or to a rape, it's just between those two people. And with a murder, the person who's been murdered can't speak or give any evidence, so you've literally got to accumulate the evidence to prosecute the perpetrator, whereas they can say whatever and make up whatever. You know, they're in control. They are in control, and when the police manage a successful prosecution, they've done so well. You know, we have to give them credit, because it's not easy. It's not easy to put the pieces together and bring about a successful conviction. So I hope one day there will be justice for both Nicolas. So we've got 2 Nicolas there that we have to think about, and a family connection. So that bears a bit of thinking about, doesn't it? So anyway, if you've got anything to say on this, maybe you totally disagree with me, that's fine too. Let me know in comments. Okay, I will see you very soon in the next video. And as always, live and love very carefully. And until then, may your God go with you. Thank you. Thank you for watching my channel, and if you are interested in knowing how I survived stalking, how I became a Spanish teacher, and how I ended up living in Spain, you can find it all out here in my book Confessions of a Spanish Teacher, available on Amazon. Yeah, all Amazon sites. Thank you. Have you ever thought about learning Spanish? Try my Break the Language Barrier series of books, available on Amazon. There's levels 1, 2, 5. So whatever level you are, whether you're a beginner or you're more advanced and you just want to practice what you've learned, there's a book for you. If you're not sure which level you are, get in touch with me and I will help you to decide which book is the best for you. Also, if you're interested in Zoom classes in Spanish, those can be arranged. I've got some timetable left. Now, these books, the explanations are in English, the answers are in the back, and each exercise you do in these books is backed up by a YouTube video to practice your pronunciation and listening. Okay, so they're available on Amazon, Vicky Riley, Vicky with an I, and all available on Amazon. Thank you.